The 5.4 Spiral Abyss usage rates are out. We're going to look at the top characters used, the top characters owned, and the top teams. And honestly, some of the results were really shocking to me. Let's get started. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. Last time I did the usage rates, I compared my results from my own testing in that same video. This time, because it's taking me a little bit longer and I want to spend more time on my own results, I think it deserves its own video. So that'll be coming out a video a bit later. Plus, I want to make sure I have enough time to actually test all the teams in the Spiral Abyss. First things first, we're going to take a look at the lineup of enemies to give you some tips and tricks in case you're still struggling with it, but also to just understand the results that we're going to be looking at here, because obviously the enemies that are in the Abyss are going to inform the characters that people use. So first chamber, second half, you can kind of use whatever. Obviously, electro characters are going to be extra good as they can easily aggravate against the chicken as he gives himself a Dendro aura, but there's nothing here. As long as your team has okay damage, this is no problem because the chicken is really squishy. On the first half, we started with the little alien blob, then the two Lecter shields, and then the new Natlan shielder. This first half is all about elemental application. Specifically, you want some combination of hydro and either pyro, cryo, but a great many things can work. You can brute force the shields with just enough elemental hits. I was even able to brute force it with Keqing burning, but you obviously don't want to do that. Dendro can work against the Electro Shield. It's much easier to break the Electro Shield overall as it's weak to Pyro, Cryo, and decently hurt by Dendro, whereas the Pyro one, generally you're going to just use Hydro on it. The first half has a big buff for Hydro Elemental skill damage, so in particular Farina, while the second half has a big buff to plunge damage. That's the Abyssal cards. And then this third, once you get these first two guys down, which they spawn at the same time, then the Wyob Natlan guy, you just need to do lots of elemental hits on him ASAP. And if you're using characters that use their elemental bursts, you want to make sure you burst maybe right as you're killing these guys or right when this guy spawns, because pretty quickly he takes all your energy away. So if you're using your elemental bursts to take down this guy's elemental shield, you'll need to use them before he takes away your energy. Well, he has two shields. His original shield just goes down to any elemental application, and if you break that shield, then you get all your bursts back and you can do lots of damage to him. If you fail to break that shield, he brings up a pyro shield. So yeah, that's how that works. If you're struggling, honestly, join our Discord server. Go on YouTube and watch different clears and see how people are doing it, especially with the team that you're using. And yeah, and then like I said, second half is whatever. The next one is like a multi-wave check. You have this guy first, then the Rune Guard, and then the Perpetual Mechanical Array, who has multiple phases. So it's like super multi-wave check. It's basically just damage. You need a team that does damage. Remember when we used to have just Perpetual Mechanical Array? Well, now we have more baseline HP and we have triple wave. Very fun. Second half, a bit of a joke at this point. Just the Dorito, the algorithm of intrinsic semi-overseer network. That's not exactly right, but it's close. Almost have it memorized. You can tech Electro to defeat this guy, but you do not have to if your team is really strong. It's definitely much easier if he goes invisible. You need Electro, but if you have a team that does enough big damage, when he first summons his first two minions, if you kill them really quickly, then he doesn't go into hiding mode. So you can beat him without having Electro, but it's going to be easier if you tech someone Electro, whether it's a Roron or Fischl. And then the third side is a multi-wave. You start off with these two Eremites, then the Lava Dude, and then the Crab. So again, incentivizing you to use Hydro to knock these down quickly as possible. So double Hydro with Farina, Novelette with Farina. Basically, it's just you're looking to use some sort of Hydro-based team on the first side with maybe Bennett on your team to deal. Bennett alone can deal with the Electro guy. There's lots of stuff you can do. And then the second half is the Natlan construct thing. And basically, to beat him, you can just brute force it. That's what I did when I first beat it, but you don't have to just brute force it. You can climb his pillars and hit those little things and then fly from pillar to pillar. I came across this video that was posted 5 days ago from Watchful, and it's how to beat the secret source automaton with any team. And he goes through tons of characters that can climb the pillars in different ways. So obviously you've got the Natlan ones, Shalonen, Kachina, Mavuika, Chaska, Kunich, but also Shao, Sitlali, Roron, Keqing, Chiori, Kazuha, Alhaitham, Shenyan Skill, Shenyan Burst, Wanderer, Mulan, Zhongli, Albedo, Venti, Geo Traveler, Gaming, Kirara, Tall, Male Model, Medium Male Model, Medium Field Model, Small Female Model, tall female model. I think child model can do it too. So I'll link this video in the description down below so you can check it out if you want to see all of these characters climb the pillar. And so that is, you should have probably be able to tack one of those characters onto your team. So this should be a fairly doable Spiral Abyss. I didn't find it crazy hard, but I didn't find it crazy easy either. Now, looking at the actual usage rates, we have Furina at 96.7. Makes sense. The first half is absolutely tailored towards her. For my testing, I remove her goblet because she gets a 75% damage bonus. Absolutely huge. Xiaolonen, very high. She's probably being used a lot on the second side to easily climb those pillars, but she's really good on the first side with Furina as well. Novelette, obviously incredible on the first side. Citlali, just very good in general. I did screen cap a bunch of the top teams and a bunch of the teams that these characters were using. So we will go into that. Kazuha, very well used. He also can be used to easily climb those pillars. I don't know that he's particularly crazy good in this Abyss. I think people just like using him with Novelette. There's nothing about this Abyss that's especially good for Kazuha, but hey, people love Kazuha. Moika, a bit of a dip down from before, but still a very high usage rate. If you tech a Hydro onto her team on the first side, she can easily clap the first side, and the second side she can easily destroy with basically any team. Bennett, obviously very high. Baiju is really funny. I do want to go over to the teams that Baiju is used on. So this isn't 41% of all Baiju teams. This is 41%. I don't exactly know how they're doing this. I think it's 41% of Baiju's usage rate. So like his usage rate is 44%. So 41% out of this 44%. So all but 3%. So it's like, you know, it's actually 90% of the teams or whatever it is this Baiju team. It's Novelette, Kazuha, Baiju, Furina. So Baiju is just basically Novelette support, and it's really funny because he doesn't actually do anything for Novelette on this team except for provide draconic stacks and a little bit of interruption resistance. So I find this just really funny that is like almost all of Baiju's usage is just from this one Novelette team where he's not even that great on. I know people love it though, so it's obviously very comfortable and Novelette gets the job done regardless. But there you go. I just find that quite funny. Nilou second, you know, team is used 20 times less than the other team, and then the next team down is also Baiju team, or also a Novelette team, another Novelette team, another Nilou team, an Ayato team. Fascinating. Arlecchino very high. Yelan makes sense. It's great for her. Zhongli, Wriothesley, Nahida. I was curious what teams people were using Nahida with as well. Mostly Alhaitham Hyperbloom, bit of Tighnari on the second side. Double Hydro Hyperbloom. Double Hydro, unironically, quite nice on the first side for all of the elemental application and the Hydro check that it has. She's also pretty heavily used for Chlorand. Chlorand being Chlorand's most popular team. Most popular two teams. I do find it funny these teams are a lot worse than the Chevreuse teams, but I think one of the things that consistently surprises me is how the most used teams are not the best teams, not the teams that I've found to be most effective. They're just teams that people have liked, they've gotten used to, and they just continue to use them. Because why would people, if it's working, why would people switch it up? Why would people innovate? Why would people actually use the strongest thing? I mean, maybe you don't have the strongest thing, but even if you do, if something's been working and you like it, you know, why switch it up if you don't have to? So I totally get it, but you know, a lot of the things are not optimal, which is fine, but just something that's interesting to note of. Wriothesley, Nahida, Xingqiu, again, makes sense. Very good on the first side. Chaska. Chaska's interesting because her shots count as elemental skill damage, and so if you're using her with Furina when she does the Hydro shot, she gets the boost on the Hydro shot, so pretty cool. Raiden, Kuki, Auroran makes sense, quite good on the second side. Chlorand, Charlotte, Sijuin. Remember, this is usage rate, not total usage. So, you know, Wriothesley and Sijuin have super tiny usage rate, but a good chunk of them, a super tiny usage ownership, but a good chunk of them, people who have them, use them. Shenyun, big plunge buff, Alhaitham, and then it's sort of the usual suspects. I mean, nothing is like crazy surprising here. You only have so many DPSs. You can only use so many DPSs. Nothing really surprising here. No, everything seems pretty standard and expected. These are Novelette's top teams. So Baiju is his top team. His actual best team, his actual best team is if you replace Kazuha with Moika, but it's kind of wasteful, so it makes sense that Kazuha would still be here. And it's only barely half of the Baiju team. The Charlotte version, I've noticed this is always pretty popular. The Zhongli version. I'm surprised that the Zhongli version is so much less popular than the Baizhu version. That's always very surprising to me. Oh no, these are just the top teams overall, not even the top Novelette teams. That just goes to show Novelette has the top 4 team, then the next one is Zhao. Pretty evenly split on the first and second side, as he's pretty good at both. Makes sense. Novelette again. Kokomi Monohydro makes sense. Good team for this. There's double hydro with Farina instead of Yolan. Double hydro Hyperbloom. Chaska, and then double hydro Hutao with Silali. Nice to see Silali getting some use there. Oh no, these are the top Farina teams. Sorry for the confusion. These are the top Farina teams. These are the top teams overall. So top team is Moika, then Novelette, then Arlecchio Melt, then Risley. Really big drop off after the first two. 47% of people using the Moika team, 24% of people using the Novelette team. This doesn't quite compute. Novelette, this team at 24%, but this team at 41%. Scusi? Something not computing. Something not adding up. Okay, I'm going to stop reading into these because it doesn't add up. If you know, answer down below. These are the top Novelette teams. Yeah, it doesn't compute. This one should have been higher. It should have been like between these two. Maybe it just wasn't played. Weird. The top Moika teams, Moika, then Kenich, then Risley, then Chaska support, then Kazuha over Shilonen, then Mulani, then Auroran. Makes sense. Very cool. Top Baizhu teams, we looked at that. Top Cloran teams, we looked at that. These are the top usage rates. So I found this fascinating. This is what I put the thumbnail on just because it's so wild to me. Farina owned by 97% of players. Or yeah, owned by 97.2% of players. Absolutely crazy ownership rate. Wild, wild, wild. It's a rerun. This just shows that people really, if they didn't have her, everyone has her now. This is really useful for me because I can just assume that you have Farina because everyone does. Absolutely crazy. Like everyone. If you don't have Farina, you're like crazy, crazy special. Who else is really high? Kazuha at 93, Standard Banner, Nahida at 89, Zhongli, and then Raiden at 76. Novelette at 76. 3/4 of people have Novelette. Crazy. Yolan, 2/3 have Shilonen. 2/3 have Moika, half have Arle, Silali. I like it how Aloy is like at 30% now. It's getting rarer and rarer as people like quit Genshin basically, who were around for Aloy. Seijuin at the very lowest. No. Mizuki at the very lowest by a huge margin. Chiori next, then Albedo, then Seijuin, Emily, Linny, Ito, Sino, Eula, Risley. I don't look at these every single time, but I like to look at them in depth from time to time. Novelette increased in usage 14%, Farina increased 12%, Baizhu increased 6%, Raiden up, Shilonen up, Kazuha up, Yaimiko up. No rhyme or reason for a lot of these, but a lot of them do make sense. And then dropped in usage, Mizuki with a massive generational drop off in usage, Shenhe with a very huge drop off as well. Nilou with a large drop-off. Arlecchino, a really big drop-off. It makes sense. She's still very good on the second side, as long as you like play Shilonen or someone, or Kachina or someone to get up on the thing. Ganyu with a massive drop-off. Risley, Ayaka. It makes sense. The last Abyss was good for AoE, for freeze, for grouping, etc. Chaska, Emily, Venti down. Lali slightly down. Hutao down a fair bit. Child down a lot. Okay, so I think I finally found the team usage rates. Apologies for the confusion back there. 47%, 41%. It's exactly what I said. 24%, 19, 10, 10%, 9, and then the based Risley mains just getting, you know, C1, C2, C3, C4, whatever, C6 Risley and soloing on the second half. Very nice. Mad respect. Represent. Good for you guys. There you go. Very, very interesting. Very, very fascinating. Let me know what surprised you. Let me know what you used in the Abyss. Let me know. And while you're at it, please subscribe. It really helps up the channel. And if you don't want to do that, it's totally fine. Just watching the video has been more than enough. Thanks so much. Bye for now.